Next, we'll be solving equations with fractions. Just like with decimals, there's two ways that you can do this. The first way is to treat it exactly like any other problem. So we're trying to isolate the x. The x is not by itself right now because it's being multiplied by 2/3 and then you're subtracting 1/6. So you would need to do that in reverse order. The inverse of subtracting 1/6 would be adding 1/6. Negative 1/6 plus 1/6 is 0, so it's sort of like that part cancels out. And on the right hand side, you'd be left with a 2/3 x. On the left hand side, 1/4 plus 1/6 is 5/12. And then we need to get rid of the 2/3. Your first instinct should be to say the inverse of multiplying by 2/3 is dividing by 2/3. But then you remember that we don't divide by fractions, that we multiply by reciprocals instead. So then you would multiply both sides by 3/2. And on the right hand side, 2/3 times 3/2 is 1, so we'd get 1x, or just x. It's sort of like the 2/3 and the 3/2 cancel out. And then on the left hand side, the 3/2 times 5/12, that is 5/8. So your solution would be 5/8. The other way you can do this one is similar to what we did with the fractions, where we found a way to clear the decimals by multiplying by something that would eliminate all the decimals. We're going to do the same thing by figuring out something that we can multiply by that would eliminate all the fractions. The way you do this is you find the least common denominator of all the denominators. So in this problem, the least common denominator between 4, 3, and 6 is 12. So I would multiply both sides of the equation by 12. And I would essentially, on the left-hand side, I'd be doing 12 times 1/4. And on the right-hand side, I'd be distributing the 12, so I'd be doing 2/3 x times 12 and 1/6 times 12. And if you've picked your least common denominator correctly, all of the fractions should go away when you go to simplify. On the left, 12 times 1/4 is 3. On the right, 2/3 times 12 is 8. And 1/6 times 12 is 2. And then this is a much easier problem to solve. You would add 2 to both sides and then divide both sides by 8. You get the same answer either way. In terms of doing your check, see if I can squeeze this in here very small. You would go back to the original problem. You would plug in the 5/8 for the x and then simplify. So 2/3 times 5/8 is 5/12, and 5/12 minus 1/6 is 1/4. So we know that our answer is correct.